Monkey branching, the most popular topic on relearning relationships. And today I'm back with another monkey branching video. As I said in the title, monkey branched for a guy she would not have normally dated. This is exactly what happened to one of my subscribers, and it gives me permission to share his experience so that you, men and women, can learn from it and avoid going through what he did. Now, before I start reading through his email, I would like to start off with a Bible verse which relates to this topic. Proverbs 23, verses 26 through 28. My son, give me your heart, and let your eyes delight in my ways. For an adulterous woman is a deep pit, and a wayward wife is a narrow well. Like a bandit she lies in wait, and multiplies the unfaithful among men. You see, when you interact with members of the opposite sex that are promiscuous, immodest, immoral, they don't value themselves, you run the risk of becoming just like them. And they can really lead you astray. With that said, let's get started on Jimmy's story. Now, he says here, I got her the same way when we started dating. I stole her from a guy she was with who she claimed was verbally abusive as well. So yeah, huge red flag. So right off the bat, we have a summary of and a foreshadowing of what is going to happen, and obviously what happened to Jimmy. And what did I just mention just before this Bible verse? Like a bandit she lies in wait and multiplies the unfaithful among men. You see, he mentioned that he stole her from a guy she was with. So she's in a relationship. She's unhappy. She leaves. She cheats on her boyfriend to be with him. That means he's partaking in infidelity. So he himself has become unfaithful. There we go. Let's continue on. So it says, hi Christian, I recently went through the worst breakup of my life, and your videos have been really inspiring and comforting. You're more than welcome. And thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the content. I don't have many people to talk to. My family's a mess and they are not there for me, and I truly feel alone. So I thought I would reach out to you to tell you my story. If you think this is worth making content over, feel free to use it, as it may be a good topic for others. You're in luck. My ex-fiance and I were together for 4 years. So you went and put a ring on this woman's finger, knowing that she is a cheater. Remember, if she did it to him, it's just a matter of time before she does it to you. Because this woman hasn't come to Christ. She hasn't repented. She hasn't come to God. Therefore, she's going to remain the same. And for the ladies watching, it's the same thing. If you meet a guy and he leaves his girlfriend or his wife to be with you, it's just a matter of time before he gets bored of you and does the same thing to you when his needs aren't met. This is what unfaithful people do. It's the pattern that's been studied over and over again. And I myself on my channel, I have tons of monkey branching stories of men and women who have involved themselves with spouses, partners that have done things like this. And it's something you can observe. Be careful. So my ex-fiance and I were together for 4 years before we broke up. Well, that's how long it lasted until her needs weren't met. Our relationship was amazing. It was amazing for the first 2 years, and then COVID happened. You know, you hear that a lot with people that have relationships that end this way. Oh, it was amazing for the first 2 years, or it started out in a perfect way. It usually does. That's called limerence, or honeymoon stage, however you want to call it. Your sexual interest in one another it spikes. Okay, and especially when you're leading with your lust, which I know you definitely are, because you lowered any standards you had to involve yourself with a woman that has a boyfriend, and she herself is also leading with her sexual desire and her lust for you, because instead of healing after going through that relationship, which apparently was abusive, she cheated on him to be with you. Therefore, you have a couple here, and their relationship is founded upon self-gratification, flesh, sex, physical intimacy, but there's no substance, there's no faithfulness, there's no love, there's no honor, there's no integrity, there's no vulnerability. You're not masculine and she's not feminine. I can definitely see that just from what I've read thus far. Just by seeing how the relationship has started, the ending is predictable. And this is why, guys, just to make another point on this, if you come across a girl and she tells you that she has a boyfriend or a husband, but she's going to leave him because he's so abusive, right? Let me tell you why you shouldn't believe that. Anybody who's been in a relationship where there's verbal abuse, there's physical abuse, where there's true abuse, you will see that they are in no headspace. There is no way on earth they feel ready emotionally, mentally, to enter another committed relationship, because abuse is exhausting. It is draining. Anyone who's been on the receiving end of a toxic or narcissistic partner will tell you there is no way on hell that they are suddenly going to just cheat on their spouse to be with someone else, because it is so painful and destroying. They don't even have their identity anymore. So there is no way they're going to get into another relationship. They need to recover and rebuild, their core and their values and meet their needs. So if she was in an abusive relationship, she would either seek help or she would dump the guy and then be single for a long time and heal, and then reach out to you when she's ready. That's what would really happen if it was truly abusive. Okay, I want to make that very clear. It's a little tip you can use if you come across, someone who gives you that lie, because it's deceiving. And people that are selfish, or in this case, sometimes even narcissistic, they will root out people that they can see are weak, or they just don't have any standards for themselves. And they will tell them something like that, and they're gullible and they'll just believe them. So please protect yourself. So as he says, our relationship was amazing for the first 2 years, and then COVID happened. She really pressed me to move into my place with my roommate, and I told her it was not a good idea, but she got her way. The 6 months we lived with my roommate were pure hell. No privacy, we could never have sex, and I witnessed her have many horrible breakdowns. But I always stuck by her side. There's no mention of you and her sharing principles, knowing exactly what you want out of life. You don't have the end goal of you want marriage, you want family. You're just mentioning sex. Not to mention, I'm other than the fact that you've already given me the red flag that she cheated on her boyfriend to be with you, in your relationship, I'm seeing a red flag and a mistake. The red flag is she's pressing you to move into, for you to allow her to move in to your place within the first few months, obviously. Why is that a red flag? Because a woman that is traditionally minded, who really does want marriage, who genuinely really wants a family for the right reasons, she's feminine, okay? She embraces womanhood. She follows God. She's moral. She's not going to move in with a man unless you're engaged or married, because she still needs to test you to make sure you're a good match for her. You're compatible. You have chemistry. that you're a righteous man, that you're honorable. Okay, if she had morals, of course, these are the things she would be thinking of. Therefore, she's not going to rush in early on where you could take advantage of her, get her pregnant, leave her, abuse her, especially if she was in an abusive relationship, right? But of course, when you get involved with one of these women that are selfish, they have unresolved abandonment issues, whether they're too far gone, they're promiscuous, they're just immoral, or they're led astray by worldly beliefs such as feminism, these women have no concept of traditional gender roles or true structural order in a relationship, the role of the man and the role of the woman, and family and marriage. They don't understand the value of it. So a woman like that, because it's not important to her, she just wants to bypass getting to know you and building a life and making an actual commitment and just, let's move in. That right there is a red flag. And again, I cover that in my book. You want to go through that in the relationship section in my book at the end. Take a look. I'll obviously put the link in the description. And obviously the mistake here, well, the first mistake you've made, other than even talking to this girl, getting to the point where you would even move in with her and have a relationship for 4 years. But the mistake here is you said, I told her it was not a good idea, but she got her way. Men lead, women follow. Because you as the man are supposed to give the woman the framework for her to be feminine and be a lady, to submit to you, to respect you. You're not being the head. You're not being the man here. Because you told her it's not a good idea. You know it's a good idea. And obviously because you're interested in being physical with her and you don't want to lose her because you have such low standards for yourself. And I know you don't have God. And I know you don't have a life outside of her. Or if you do, you really haven't put them a priority. What you've done here is you've sacrificed your principles, which means you don't have any, for physical intimacy because you didn't want to lose the woman. But if you had awareness and your knowledge gap was filled and you weren't living in lust, you would have stuck to your principles and you would have said, no, you're not moving in. And then two things would have happened. She would have either gotten angry and walked away, which she disqualified herself for you. The trash has taken itself out, good riddance. Or she humbles herself and says, okay, fine. She's patient, she becomes more submissive, and she respects you because you stood up for yourself. Either way, it's a win-win. She proves to you she's a good match, which obviously in this case she wouldn't be because she's cheated on her boyfriend to be with you. But in the case she would have been a good woman, then that's how you would think of it. Or in the other case, you get rid of her. It's like that simple. But of course you made the mistake of sacrificing your principles because you like her. What does this do in her eyes? She knows you're weak because she already manipulated you or quote unquote fed you up, a bunch of lies about her abusive ex-boyfriend and all of this, and you fell for it. So now she's testing you, I wouldn't even say testing because this woman doesn't respect you or care about you, she's messed up. But this particular woman, because she's immoral, she's just kind of trying to see what angle she can come from. And all it took was one conversation and you've completely gone against what you stand for. So therefore she knows you have no balls. So now she can walk all over you because there's a way in. So there's a way for her to stay and take whatever she wants. And you're just going to stand there like a cuck. Continuing on. So the 6 months we lived with my roommate were pure hell. No privacy, we could never have sex, and I witnessed her many, many horrible breakdowns. Yeah, she's obviously got some problems. Wonder why. Ain't no rest for the wicked. But I always stuck by her side. After my roommate left, our relationship was great again in every way, but the intimacy never came back. Again, all you're doing is focusing on sex. Well, obviously, the intimacy didn't come back because you weren't behaving like a man. Therefore, you destroyed sexual polarity because you're not leading her. Instead, you are being led by her. And to a woman, that is a massive turn-off because the feminine isn't designed for that role. Women are reactive to you. Okay, the feminine is reactive to the masculine. She's reliant and dependent on the masculine. You are not. You are interdependent because you are designed to lead, protect, and provide. physically, as men, we go out there into the world and we penetrate the world with our career, business, talents, skills, who we are. We leave an imprint, we leave a mark. That's what men do. We build things, we found things, okay? And women, look at the way they are designed. Physically, they're designed to be penetrated, of course, by a man, but emotionally, they're penetrated by everything going on around them, the exterior, their feelings, their emotions, because they're intuitive, they're nurturing, they're caring. And when a woman sees that, obviously you can't even penetrate her with your principles, with your morals, with your boundaries, with your standards, because you don't have any, and she sees that you're not a real man, she's not going to allow you in physically, because first you must break down the walls emotionally and mentally. And then finally, when she submits to you, which is the ultimate sign of love, then she opens up and gives herself to you physically. Of course, I'm talking about stable, moral, traditional women, of course, not these harlots or feminists and women that lack discretion. Now, and obviously, because you've already shown her that you're weak and that you don't stand by your word, she's not going to want to respect you or follow your lead. There you have it. So, in the summer, I proposed to her. Another mistake. And she accepted. Yeah. And why would she not accept? I mean, you're making it very easy for her. She knows you're a guy she can use and take advantage of. Our relationship had begun to get very routine-like. Tells me you're not compatible, and of course you're not fulfilling your duty as a man to date your woman, make her feel heard and understood, add variety into the relationship, lead. You're not doing that. Get into a relationship, you do what you do to get her. Now, in your case, you stole her from a guy, which is wrong, immoral. You should slap yourself in the face for that. But when you first met her, you were going out, you're spending time with one another. Guys get into a committed relationship, they relax and they stop doing that. You have to continue to do that. But keep that in mind for the next woman, which I pray to the Lord above that you do not involve yourself with a woman who has a boyfriend or a husband or anything like that. Okay, do not make that same mistake. Of course, go for a woman that's ready, willing, and able, and has a clean slate. Always court and date your woman. For the men watching, if you're in a relationship, always, always, always do that. It's your duty. So now it gets very routine-like, very monotone. He says, our days would be like this. We go to work, come home, and I'd cook a dinner every night. I cook a dinner every night. Who's being the man and who's being the woman? There's nothing wrong with cooking. I like cooking as well. And if you like cooking, great. Cook from time to time. But your woman, is she doing anything for you? Oh, what's the secret ingredient with cooking? Love. If your woman loves you and admires you and looks up to you, as a woman, her role is to be a man's helpmate, to support you, to be collaborative with you. So where's the mention of her cooking dinner for you every or most night? None. You said, I cook dinner for her every night. So she's doing that. Is she disabled? No. What's the excuse? She's not 7 months pregnant. She's not carrying your child. So she doesn't need to take a break from those duties. See, this is what happens when you don't get involved with traditional women. They won't do those things, but they expect you to. You can't have a 50-50 relationship. It doesn't work. Somebody has to be the man, somebody has to be the woman. And when it doesn't happen and you both mix and dip in with each other's responsibilities, sexual polarity evaporates just like that. And then you have a boring, dry relationship like this, where you're like two friends sharing a place, which you shouldn't be anyway, because you're not married. Shacking up, cohabiting, they always end badly in most cases. And if you are in a situation like that and you're someone watching, make a choice. Either you know she's right for you and you get married, waste no time, or if she's not, let her go. But when you put yourself in a situation like that, it's 10 times harder to walk away. And that is on you to sort out. So I'd cook a dinner every night and we would play this game we liked all night till we went to bed. We adopted gaming as a hobby during COVID, he says. One day we meet a new player in the game, and we helped him out and we all became friends. My fiance developed an emotional relationship with this guy, and I caught her under the covers talking to him on her personal phone, and that's when we split. Well, that's okay. I'd started therapy to help with our relationship issues because I have an avoidant attachment style, and I wanted to make changes to save our relationship. No, you're just codependent. I can see you have some personal issues, whether it's back from your childhood or things in your relationships in the past, friendships, or you just have never been taught how to be a man. There's always a chance you can learn and grow. Obviously, you're watching my content. You care about turning things around in your life, which is a start. And if you're making progress, I salute you. That is always a good thing. Use that as fuel to keep going. So she basically was like emotionally cheating on you with this guy. So I'd started therapy and all the rest, which is good. You're doing something to help yourself, of course. So I wanted to make changes to save our relationship, but I caught her talking to this guy shortly after I started therapy. Well, again, this was predictable. Like the sun coming up and the sun going down. This is easy. She cheated on her boyfriend to be with you. The same crap story she told you is the same rubbish she told him, and he's another guy that has some seriously low testosterone and very, very low or non-existent standards for himself, who did exactly what you did. You see, the problem isn't men and women and, all women are the same or all men are the same. No, there's good men and there's bad men. There's good women and there's bad women. You have to learn to distinguish. And your duty as a man is to be a good man. And for the ladies watching is to be a good woman. And then seek out a partner who is also good. Pretty simple, isn't it? This is why it sickens me when people now blame marriage. Oh, you shouldn't get married anymore. As if marriage is the problem. No. Marriage is an institution that God created to join man and woman together under holy matrimony. Okay? It's a sacred covenant. Now, marriages are falling apart because men and women who are immoral, who are not traditional, who have promiscuous, who are unrepentant, who effeminate men and masculinized women are marrying. Men and women who have serious problems that they haven't worked on are marrying. They don't understand marriage and they're marrying. And therefore marriages are crumbling, divorce rates spiking, infidelity, all these horrible things are happening, which is tearing children apart, families apart, destroying society. And people want to point the finger at marriage. It's not. It's because there's good, honorable, traditional men and women that do get married and it works out wonderfully for them. But the reason why for most people we're seeing the numbers go up where there's an increase in screwed up or broken marriages, it's because of broken, messed up people that are getting together, that don't understand how to be as a man, men, as a woman. And then they're getting into a relationship and it fails because they're doing it not because they need their partner, but because they're doing it based off of their feelings. Okay, they have no morals. They have no principles to keep them in check because traditional values come from faith and faith comes from God. And if you don't have love, you don't love God, you're not going to even be able to love your spouse properly, let alone yourself or anyone else for that matter. And when people like this come together and get into a relationship, what happens? The moment their needs stop the moment their needs stop being met, or they don't know how to communicate because they're immature or whatever happens to be, they give up. They walk away, they look elsewhere, or they look outside of their marriage to fulfill those unmet needs. Instead of running closer to their partner, running closer to God, they run farther away. And this is what we're seeing. Because when you don't have any checks or anything like that, anything to keep you in balance or to keep you in order, to put you in line, the only thing that's going to do that is your feelings, your emotions, which are going to go up and down, which is why they're untrustworthy. Because God is never changing, you trust in him and the way he says men and women should be. That's where I get my checks and balances come from. That's what keeps me in line, God does. no one else. And this is why men and women that are immoral and non-traditional get married and it fails. Because they're doing it based off of what feels good, me, me, myself, and I. It's selfishness. It's not based on selflessness or real love. It's based on, lust and self-serving emotions. And this is why it's failing. So marriage is a wonderful thing as long as it's done according to God's will. Men and women know how to be, follow God's blueprint for men and women and get together the right way. And when you don't do that, this is why we see these problems. And luckily, even though his situation is really bad, he didn't end up marrying her. Neither did he have kids with her. So he can count himself lucky. Jimmy, I know you're watching, count yourself lucky. Because obviously this could have gone much worse. You could have been a single dad and divorced. There's some more mental health issues for you. But see, this is the thing. Just because you want to get married, or you really like that woman, guys, doesn't mean she's marriage material or she's wife material. You are responsible for the quality of woman that you choose. Don't point the finger and say, oh, women are bad, all women are horrible. No, they're not. There's a lot of good girls out there. There's billions of women in the world. All you need is one good one that matches you, chemistry, compatibility. Okay, a godly woman who's traditional, and then you can get married to her the right way. And you won't be one of those broken statistics. You'll be an example in your community, like, wow, look, they have a good relationship. That's what you want. So he said, I caught her talking to this guy shortly after I started therapy. She quit her job, got a passport, and within 2.5 weeks of us breaking up, she drove across the border to another country to immediately move in with this guy. Isn't that sweet? Just like you. Funny how that works. Remember how she pressured you to let her move in with your roommate, which I'm surprised your roommate didn't say anything. And now, after she's been in a 4-year relationship with you, which, quite frankly, if you've been with someone for 4 years, you need to detox and heal from that. You're not going to get over that in a matter of a few weeks, are you? Of course not. But in her case, because she's damaged and you obviously haven't emotionally imprinted her because she's unable to, she's obviously got her own trauma, her own problems. She jumped from you to some other guy, and obviously the guy she's with, she's using. And he's dumb enough to, yeah, sure, come over, come move in with me. Good riddance. That's the way you should see it. So within 2.5 weeks of us breaking up, she drove across the border to another country to immediately move in with this guy. She's serious about it, huh? This guy's jobless and a stoner who would smoke a bong constantly when we played our game. He's the type of guy she would historically give her girlfriend shit for relentlessly dating. Well, obviously, bad company corrupts good morals. Look at her friends. Her friends are dating guys that are losers, guys that have nothing going for them, guys that aren't masculine. And, well, look at you. Look at who she is. I mean, she's not one to talk. She cheated on her boyfriend to be with you. And she's giving advice to her female friends as well. Yeah, that's right. You have a cheater giving advice to other women. That's great, isn't it? That's just how the world should be, right? Come on, man. Get with it. I admit I was not all there for her immediately, and I own that. And I know what I need to fix. And I know that I need to fix the issue I have now. But I never meant to hurt her on purpose. You haven't done anything to her. She did a really good job of making me believe it was all my fault. So first of all, she reaches out like you're her savior. Please save me, Jimmy. My boyfriend is so abusive. You're my only hope. And you eat it up like a homeless dog. And then she does the same thing to you. And when she discards you at the end, she has such a nice way of, as you said, a really good job of making you believe it was all your fault. What a nice woman. And you What, or engaged? Wow, imagine marrying her. That would have been wonderful, right? You would have been like one of those, you'd be like Will Smith. You'd be like Will Smith, and his bald wife is going to be cheating on you with some other guy. That would be you. Yeah? If you were to get married with her, but you didn't. Talking down to you like you're a little kid. Then you're one of those sexless marriages where you have to spin a wheel and do chores to try and get intimacy. But guess what? When you're with a woman that's actually into you, she's all over you. She desires you. And you have the same values and principles that glues everything together into an actual relationship. Comes full circle. But no, you didn't have that with her. So she makes me believe it was all my fault. She overshared too much about this guy to the point where I knew all of his fetishes. She left sex toys and our wedding stuff all over just to spite me. Well, I mean, if you're in a relationship and she's putting toys and objects inside of her and you need to please her with stuff like that, it's because you were unable to please her. Because if you're both good enough for each other, you can use each other's bodies. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. If you need to use something else, it ain't it. So you get into one of these, look, you can see she's not a feminine woman. She's not traditional lady. Look at her. And she talked to some of my friends and told them I was abusive. Oh, that's so kind of her. Remember what she told you? That he was abusive, the guy that you stole her from, and she tricked you, telling you how abusive he was. Funny, she was obviously, as I mentioned before, she's obviously lying. Of course he wasn't abusive, but you fell for it. And then she even tried to do the same thing to your friends. So they think that it was your fault. So when they find out that she's obviously in another relationship, they're going to think, wait a minute, she was been with Jimmy for 4 years. Why is she with someone else? She could turn around and say, oh, he was abusive. I had to escape from him. She's calculated. She's planning ahead. Oh, man. She said, why do that when I'm already down? You got involved with a cheater and a liar. And this is the price you pay for not sticking to your principles. She was so over the top that all I did was not give enough, and I was working on it. The only thing you should have worked on was leaving her earlier on. 3 weeks before this, she would say she loved me and our relationship was perfect outside the one issue. Why would she leave me for a guy like this? Well, she's obviously lowering her standards. Most people, when cheaters line up a replacement and they monkey branch, they tend to lower their standards and get the first person who's dumb enough to get involved with them, as you know yourself, because you did that. A guy who is in complete scarcity, he doesn't have a life that he enjoys, he doesn't have God in his life, a guy who's only thinking about sex, that's what they go for. Because any moral man who has self-respect, who's busy, he's got a career, he's got a business, he's got friends, he's got hobbies, he wants a good woman in his life. The moment he hears the words, I have a boyfriend or I have a husband, he walks away. He said, I'm not getting involved. Adios. See you another time. Goodbye. He doesn't involve himself because he knows he wouldn't want his woman to be doing that to him. And he would never do that to his own woman. Therefore, he doesn't partake in that. Because when you get involved with someone who's cheating on their partner to be with you, you weaken your character. You devalue yourself as a human being. Why would she leave me for a guy like this? I just said so. I just said why. He has been saying all the right things and filling that void that she claims he speaks her love language and all of this, but they have only known each other for 2 months and have never met in person until she left. Because it's their limerence, man. Especially people that are codependent, have mental health issues, they're more prone to go deeper into the honeymoon. Whereas men and women that have more self-control, they tend to be chaste. In other words, they abstain from, whether it's guys doing senior attention, women who don't touch themselves, people that they stay away from, that they have self-control, where they don't give in to those fleshly desires. They can see things clearly, and when they enter a relationship or they start courting one another at the beginning, they ask questions. They try and see, do we match up? Are we a good combination? They tend to lead more with their principles instead of just their feelings. Of course, they're going to be into you, but they'll kind of put the feelings there for a moment, make sure that there's no red flags, make sure you're a good match, and then they let the feelings in once they know it's safe to open up. Then you can have a good relationship. That's what smart people do, smart men and women. But of course, she's using him to fill the void, like she did with you. She just settled with you for a few years because you weren't going anywhere. And she just agreed and told you everything you wanted to hear, and you believed it. Because you weren't living in a traditional way. You were living in lust, led astray. It's on you. It's really sad, and I'm down 12K in lost deposits for the wedding. I just felt like we had something stronger. But she could move right in with a guy she barely knows. She also left all of her stuff behind with me as well. I did the pathetic thing, and I tried to win her back, and it failed, of course. And she says she wants to be selfish, and it's a bad look on her. That it's a bad look on her, and that I have to deal with it now. I'm moving on fast. She made it easy. Good. Think of it this way. All it took was for some male friend you met online for her to leave you. You didn't have to fight with her to leave your place. You didn't have to, sit there and give her closure and tell her that you're sorry, that you want to walk away. She's done it for you. And a woman like this is not going to bother you again unless that thing fails, and she may consider to come back and use you if she's really running out of options and choice, especially as she gets older and that fertility window closes. So I'm moving on fast. She made it easy, and I will never reach out to her, and I'm looking forward for my future. Good. But man, what a crazy 3 weeks. Sorry if this is kind of a ramble, but it's just such a crazy breakup. Thanks for all the great inspiring content. You're more than welcome, Jimmy. Another thing he said there was, how could she move right in with a guy she barely knows? Well, she barely knew you and pressured you to move in, right? Same thing. And guess what? She's going to do the same thing to this other guy. And then she'll be taking a passport and going somewhere else. She drove across the border. This time she might take a plane. She might be even more exotic and take a cruise. You don't know. Regardless, she's not your problem anymore. But let this be a warning to men and women alike. Avoid people that are in a relationship. Okay? If you're single and you are looking for a partner, court or date intentionally, if you want to spend your life and you want to start a family, you want marriage, you want to do something that honors God, and you want to have someone that you can really share your life with, have a lifelong commitment with, then you must be the type of person that someone that has those same values is going to be attracted to and want to be with. But when you just lower your standards and the first person who comes along, somebody like this, it's dangerous, because whether you are really into them or not, if you spend enough time, and whether they're good for you or not, if you spend enough time around them, you build an emotional attachment. And it's harder to walk away. But as I say all the time, the red flags, if there are any, are always going to be present at the beginning. No one can ever say, oh, I was in a 5-year marriage and I suddenly saw red flags. Like, no. You knew the red flags were there at the beginning, you just turned a blind eye. Even if you didn't necessarily think it was a red flag, but you saw something that was wrong, you had a gut feeling, actions and words didn't match, something seemed off, or there was always been problems, but you couldn't put a finger on it because you just lacked the awareness or the knowledge. But you have some type of understanding that something was out of place. And that is a red flag. Because quite frankly, guys, if she's wife material, there is 0 red flags, as I say in my book. And ladies, if he's husband material, there's also 0 red flags. Having a few fights, a few arguments, misunderstandings, that's normal. But when your core values are not aligned, when there's not mutual attraction, they're not right for you. When they've got issues like this, look at this girl. She didn't want her boyfriend to be with him, and he still went ahead and got into a relationship, and he got engaged to her. And luckily, he didn't get married because that was going to end in a divorce. So you have a fresh start here now, Jimmy. So ladies and gentlemen, always guard your heart. Be very careful who you allow in, okay? With that said, hope you enjoyed the video. As I mentioned at the beginning, I will have the Bible verse linked down below. For anybody who would like to reach out to me, whether it's to send a story like this, ask me any questions, book a coaching call, the email is down in the description. And also I will leave the link to my book down in the description as well. Or you can go on Amazon and just type in Relearning Relationships, order a copy in digital, paperback, hardcover. With that said, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless all of you and your families.